You know, I think this could be better. Yeah, it's much better. Bienvenidos a mi nueva cocina. It's so amazing. I have been waiting so long. We started the design process in September of 22, and as you saw, we've shot the last 4 episodes of Sweet Heat in my Airbnb, but now I'm back. And to celebrate, I'm gonna make for you a banana s'more cream pie. So the first thing that we're gonna do is heat up our milk. So I have 4 cups of milk. So all I wanna do is heat the milk. Just bring it up to a bare simmer. I don't want it to boil. If it boils, it's gonna boil over. It's gonna make a huge mess. Meanwhile, I'm going to start separating my eggs. In this recipe, I'm calling for 5 whole eggs, but I need to separate out the yolks from the whites. We will use both. The yolks are going into the pudding, and the whites are going to create the marshmallow-like toasty goodness on top of the pie at the end, but more on that later. I love banana cream pie. Well, more specifically, I love banana pudding. I'm from Texas, and I feel like at every barbecue growing up, somebody always brought banana pudding. All the kids loved it. It was super easy to make. And when I moved to New York in 2001, it was something that I actually missed because it just was not available in New York City. But Magnolia Bakery opened in the West Village, and they had Nana pudding, and there were literally lines around the block. And my friends and I had a group of friends from Texas that we all moved to New York at the same time. And we would literally go stand in line in the cold of winter waiting for our banana pudding. And we might have gone bar hopping with a banana pudding in tow just to keep us from getting too hungry. Okay, these eggs are separated. Because this is sort of a pseudo baking, I am very into weighing things out to the gram. So it's 2/3 of a cup of sugar, which is 133 grams. To the sugar, I'm going to add my 5 yolks, and I'm going to whisk these until they become a pale yellow color, which technically the French term for this is blanchir. So this takes about 60 seconds of vigorous whisking. And so you can see now we've got like this beautiful pale yellow color. It's very satiny, very ribbony. Okay, so this is now ready for cornstarch. So this is 1/3 of a cup or 54 grams, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And now I'm gonna add the milk. So the yolks are ready for the addition of the hot milk, but I need 2 hands. I need 1 hand to pour the milk, and I need 1 hand to whisk. If I whisk this by itself on the counter, the bowl is gonna spin around and nothing is going to get mixed. So I have a tip. Take a saucepan, put a kitchen towel in the center, and then put your bowl on top of that. And now you can whisk. The bowl is completely stable, not gonna fall, not gonna spin. I have a free hand to pour the milk, and I can whisk with the other. Okay, this is exactly what you're looking for. It's not bubbling, it's not boiling, it's just gently simmering. So turning the fire off, and then we will take it to the yolks. This is called tempering your yolks. So we want to start vigorously whisking the yolks. We will slowly pour in the hot milk, about half of it. All right. So what this is doing is it's raising the temperature of the egg yolks. If I put all the milk in there all at once on the fire, what would end up happening is I would cook the eggs and they would scramble and it would be really disgusting. So now I can put this entire mixture in the hot milk and nothing is gonna happen. Whenever you're making any kind of pudding or creme pat with yolks and cornstarch, or just anything with cornstarch, you need to boil it. So it needs to boil for at least 1 minute in order to cook the cornstarch. So you can see the bubbles that were on the top have all sort of disappeared, and now it's getting thick, and you can see the tracks of the whisk Look at this. This is really, really beautiful now. There we go. See? Bubbles. I'm going to add butter and coconut because I live about a mile away from these amazing coconut farms. Coconut is grown throughout the west coast of Mexico, but here in particular, literally like a mile away along the beaches, there's just like these rows and rows of coconut palms. One of the other reasons that I'm using the coconut in this dish is that the coconut, as it sits in the pudding, is gonna absorb a lot of that moisture. And so when it's in the pie, the pudding will hold its shape better than if I didn't have it in there. So it's another sort of insurance policy that you're gonna get really nice, clean slices. Okay, taking this off heat, and I'm gonna let this cool down a bit, and then I'm going to put a piece of plastic directly over the top of the pudding so that it doesn't form a skin. So I'm gonna let that stay in the pot and cool until it's room temperature. Then I'm gonna transfer it to a bowl, put the plastic back over the surface of the pudding and chill it until it's really nice and cold and firm. So now that the pudding's done, we're going to make the crust. Obviously, you can't make any s'mores without graham crackers, so we've got a graham cracker crust. In this bowl, I've got 2 sleeves of graham crackers, which is about 15 whole crackers, plus a 1/4 cup of sugar, and I have a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, because I think everything needs a little bit of a flavor enhancement that salt can give. And now I'm just gonna pulse all this together until everything is combined and crumbled. So we're all crumbled, and now I have a stick of butter melted, and I'm just going to pour this into the chute while I have the motor running. So what you're looking for is a consistency of wet sand. So when you pinch it, it should stick to your fingers and kind of clump up. That means that it will clump and stick to the sides of the pie plate. All right, so let's take this over to the island and make our crust. My oven is preheating 350 degrees, and now we're gonna make this super easy crust. To make this crust, I find that using a 1 cup measuring cup is the best way, and just kind of gently pat it down and turn your pie plate in a circle. It needs to be firm enough that it holds its shape, but not so firm that it's completely rock hard, or else it's gonna be really hard to cut. If you start from the center and then work your way towards the edge, you'll get sort of all this mound of loose crumbs along the edge. And then what I do, because obviously the pie plate edges are at an angle, then just tilt the measuring cup at the same angle as the pie plate and then tap them in. So you get a nice, even, flat edge along the crust. All right, I'm gonna take this to the oven where it will bake for 10 minutes. Actually, you know what? No, never mind. The gag's up. So anybody that has been watching this show for any length of time knows that for the last 2.5 years, anytime I bake something, I walked off camera because I did not have an oven. What I was actually doing is walking off camera, walking to the patio and baking everything literally in my gas grill. But thankfully, at long last, I have an oven. I don't have to do that anymore. Do you want to see it? Come over here. Okay, every s'mores needs some chocolate. So I am using dark bittersweet chocolate. And so I am just going to cut this in little pieces. They don't have to be crazy small, but like I would say pea size and smaller is just great. The crust literally just came out of the oven. It's really super hot. And so now we're going to sprinkle over the chocolate. So it's been 10 minutes since I put the chocolate on top, and I can see that it's starting to glisten. It's droopy a little bit, so that means that this chocolate is ready to be spread. All right, this is cool enough to now go into the fridge. Pudding and crust are in the refrigerator chilling, and so now it's time to make the meringue. So for this recipe, we are actually going to be making a Swiss meringue, which is a partially cooked meringue that is set over a pot of simmering water. So what we're gonna do first is add water to a large pot. So I'm actually going to put my mixing bowl directly in this pot. So you wanna make sure before you put this to simmer that whatever bowl you're using is gonna fit comfortably in the pot and not sit in the water. So I don't want the bottom of the bowl to touch the water. All right, and I'm gonna crank up the heat and bring that up to a rapid simmer. Okay, so into my mixing bowl, I am going to add the 5 room temperature egg whites that we saved from the making of the pudding. And this is 255 grams of sugar. Now we're gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. So now I'm going to whisk this very well just to incorporate. It's gonna start to look a little bit creamy. What I want is for the sugar to start melting and it to get really, really sort of nice and thick and almost ribbony. And I can actually hear the sound of the water behind me, so I know it's ready. So now we're gonna move back and start cooking these whites. All right, so I'm just going to set this over the water, and I have my instant read thermometer. And so again, you don't want this to be boiling, so I'm gonna make sure I'm on low. We want to whisk constantly, and I will just keep checking the temperature. So we are at 75 to 74, 75 to start. Nice, pleasant room temperature. And then we'll just whisk until we get up to 175. So we have 100 degrees to go. I'm gonna be here for a second. Happy face. Okay, so this is ready to go. Okay, so we are thick and creamy and glossy. And so now I'm gonna carefully put this into the stand mixer. That's actually very hot. So. Okay. Using the whisk attachment, we are going to start slowly and then gradually increase speed to high and then let this go until we get to stiff peaks. Okay, so your cue here is when you see the egg whites start to pull away from the sides, that means that they're like sort of not stuck, but they're sticking to the whisk. And then you get these beautiful peaks. Look at that, how beautiful that is. And then you have to taste it to make sure it's delicious. Okay. So see how the little tip is a little jiggly? I want a little bit more stiffness in there. It should hold its shape completely and you'd see it's kind of jiggling around. And that means that the meringue is still warm. So as it cools, it's going to get thicker. So it just needs like another 2 to 3 minutes of mixing and then we will be at full stiff peaks. All right. Let me see. Okay, so it's much stiffer now. You can see it's much more stable. The very tip is has a little movement to it, but overall it's much more stable, much more stiff. That is what we are looking for. I have also been informed by my cameraman that I forgot a critical step, and that is the crew needs to taste the meringue. So, 3 spoons, meringue, gentlemen. We are now at full stiff peaks. The crew has been fed. Now I'm going to add some vanilla. Again, I'm using the vanilla paste because I love vanilla flavor, but use what you have. I will let this whip in there for about 60 seconds, and then we are ready for the fun part. Because it's a s'more, it obviously needs toasted marshmallow flavor. So we're actually going to toast the meringue in the bowl and then mix it up again. So, bowl of meringue, it's stiff, obviously not coming out of the bowl. Blowtorch. And so what I'm gonna do is hold the bowl and then use the torch and then basically just torch all the interior. So you obviously wanna make sure that the bowl that you're using is heat proof. And that's super cool. We're actually gonna do this 5 times to get that incredible toasty marshmallow flavor. So I actually got this idea from a TikToker who made a toasted marshmallow buttercream. And I was like, well, I mean, if you can make a buttercream frosting, then we can make a toasted marshmallow meringue. And so that is how we decided to make this. This is time number 2. Number 3. Number 4. And now we're ready to assemble. It's time to assemble! Yay, which means we're closer to eating time, which is the most important part of this video shoot. Okay, so I have my very cold pie crust and I have my very cold pudding ready. I also have 2 sliced bananas. So the first step is we're going to just cover the bottom of the crust with these bananas, and you can arrange them daintily or haphazardly, whatever you like. I'm needing some sugar, so I'm gonna go a little bit haphazard, sort of. Okay, pudding time. Pudding is stiff, but it doesn't have a skin. What we need to do is whisk it up and get it to be nice and creamy. You can see it looks really, really unpleasantly thick, but once we whisk it up really well, it will go back to being creamy. Okay, now into the shell. All the tropical delicious flavors in one place. Oh my God. And we have one final layer, our meringue that's been toasted. I'm gonna scrape all the sides because there are some nice little toasty bits on the side. And then just layer it over the top. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm just trying to get it slightly evened out. So I've got a small offset spatula, and I'm not doing that many decorative swirls yet. I just want a nice even layer of meringue. And then once you go around and everything is decoratively swirled, then you can start embellishing a little bit more. One last torching moment. This pie is done. Oh, it looks so good. I have literally been waiting for this moment for hours. This pie is completely cold. You can see it, like even the pie plate's kind of fogging up. It's nice and firm. It's ready to cut. I don't want to talk anymore. I just want to cut it and eat it. So I've got my knife. I also have a little jar of some very hot water. It'll just help me cut a clean slice. So, very sharp knife. I'm gonna go in to the very center and just cut down. I can hear and feel the knife going through the graham cracker, so that is a good sign. Okay, it's time to bite. Oh my God, it looks so good. The crunch of the crust, that delicious meringue. Oh, really big bite. The first thing that you get is just that really beautiful, nostalgic banana pudding. It's so creamy. And then you get that little hit of graham cracker, a lot of deep, dark chocolate with a little bit of bitterness that cuts through. And then that sort of toasty marshmallow flavor. that kind of mingles with the coconut. It's kind of like weirdly an almond joy plus s'more plus banana pudding. It's really incredibly delicious. You can find this recipe and many others on food52.com. And if you like me, if you like this recipe, make sure you hit like and subscribe and you will be notified as soon as there's another Sweet Heat episode. I hope you enjoyed the little tour of my brand new kitchen. See you in 2 weeks. We'll be making empanadas. Meanwhile, I'm gonna keep eating pie.